Welcome to another episode of Being Spiritual at RU. Pastor Matt with Father Scott, and we're going to complete our series on the psychology of Christian nationalism, the book that we're reading. There it is, by Pamela White. And so the last chapter we're going to look at today is how to talk across the divide, which I think is very important. And
absolutely,
it's a very practical chapter. It probably is worth buying the book. I mean, the first two chapters I feel like we're very research oriented. Not everybody might connect as well, but
right.
the chapter I think is for everybody. It's definitely very practical.
Yeah, the first part, there wasn't a lot of news there. I mean, I kind of already knew a lot of that, but yeah, this part is where the rubber meets the road, as they say. So
yeah. So I really enjoyed it. Some convicting stuff, some learning, some aha, and then then some confirmation of stuff that I've already been doing. So I wanted to start with kind of her intro to the chapter. I highlighted a quote, and I get this a lot. I've been getting this actually today. She talks about unity and how people will push back on calls for change, especially socially, and especially when you address issues, that MAGA or Christian nationalism doesn't address very well in a Christ-like way. They'll push back and claim unity. You're not being unifying. You're being, overly critical, and this isn't Christ-like.
right,
Arrogant. They try to, put all these words to you. And she said here, and I highlighted it, the unity of America is often conflated with the silence of the oppressed and pacification of the
right.
And I think she sums that up right, that like we do need to speak out, because to be silent and unity for the sake of unity actually really isn't unity, because
Right.
the oppressors just want people silent so they can continue to do what they're doing.
Unity is not the status quo.
Yes.
And that's what people want. Just like, can't we just all get along, or all lives matter, or and it's pushing anything controversial to the side, saying, well, that's a hot button issue, let's not talk about that. And meanwhile, that only favors the majority. That only favors the racial and religious majority. That's all that does. So
yeah, don't address my issues, right?
mm-hmm.
Let's be unifying. Come on.
Right.
Are you talking about you being unifying? Are you talking about being loving? You're not being very loving.
Right. And this image of Jesus, a lot of them have, which apparently is a white nationalist Jesus. So, that he favored, patriarchy, he favored, and some of us look at Jesus and say, no, he's exactly the opposite. That's where some of us would say, this is not a time for setting our differences aside. We need to work through our differences.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's a great segue. So most of the rest of the chapter, she talks about how you engage in the differences, and challenges us to do that. I think it's right. So she addresses it in red light, yellow light, green light. So red light would be don't engage. Yellow light would be engage cautiously, and then green light would be definitely engage. In discussion with people that are in Christian nationalism and addressing those issues. So for red light, she said you're talking to true believers, and she says she even highlights it herself, and she says direct argument will almost never work. And then she goes on and says we're actually talking to their favorite TV news network, the tweets they read, Facebook posts they consume,
right?
Their entire bubble of vacuum of echo chamber. This is what I'm looking. Echo chamber of conservative Christian nationalism
Right.
who you're really addressing. So you're not going to win
Yeah.
those arguments, which that for me was convicting because at times I can challenge those folks that are probably in the red light area, and she's right. It doesn't really go anywhere other than
Right.
getting them mad.
Because the education, again, is from a biased source. It's not about what they've learned, it's what they've been told.
Yeah.
And I remember during the last presidential race, a family member started to say things about, as they said, Kamala, and which were basically these talking points that had nothing to do with reality. It only had to do with the prejudice against her.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where to go. I mean, when they said that, I kind of looked at them and I thought, wow, we are starting from very different places. And our assumptions are different. And yeah, I wouldn't say it was red light in terms of they would resist me. I think they were honestly asking questions, but the knowledge they had about, we would say Kamala, um, was just nonsense bias. It was just things that, this really had no bearing on reality. It was just what they, and then currently, Mamdani, people are just saying the same thing.
Yeah.
They're spewing, these little talking points, which has nothing to do with, his actual, you know, policies or hopes for the city. And yeah, it's very frustrating because again, you can't appeal to a common understanding. It starts with a biased understanding.
Yeah. That's a good way of summarizing it. Yeah, I mean, these are the folks that would probably call you, say you have TDS syndrome, the
Right.
hatred. Uh, just don't engage with them. I think, as you make, I'm learning too with these folks, is when I make posts on Facebook, sometimes I think my posts are very benign or should be supported by all people, but it
Right.
triggers them for some reason.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just if I respond, I'll just say, I hope that made you feel better, or something
Right.
sarcastic, light, or just ignore them. I think that's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah. And
Uh,
that's typically what I do, which in some ways makes them angrier
yeah.
if you won't engage. But it's a bit like, debates, which I don't really want to have, but conversations I've had with people about um, LGBT rights, but also even things like creationism. I tell students all the time, I don't debate people because I have to acknowledge that we're starting from very different places when we look at scripture. We
Yeah.
don't look at scripture in the same way.
Yeah.
And so we're starting from a very different place. And I think politically the same way. Their assumptions are in place and they're hard to change without serious education. And it shapes the whole conversation. And when we acknowledge that we are coming from very different places, then we can begin to say, not necessarily that we agree, just acknowledging that I don't see this issue the same way you do.
Yeah.
And I think people, especially from the majority, assume everybody thinks in this sort of binary or this, however they would describe their view of the universe, their worldview. I don't share that worldview, and I don't share that binary distinction. And the world is full of more nuance than that. The world is for. I know they hate this, but I would say the world is not black and white. It's much more gray than they're willing to admit.
Yeah.
So that's for some, that's a stopping point. They say, oh, absolute truth. They want absolute truth, and they want to hold forth as if it's somehow objectively obvious that what they are saying is the truth. And, again, I think that's a red light, because there is no, there's not much of a way forward.
No, and they're not willing to listen. And that's the key is they're not going to listen to your point,
Right.
and you know, so
And it's,
the conversation is going to go nowhere fast. Yeah.
and I always say to people, they'll make a statement about trans people or make a statement about immigrants. And I'll ask them, do you know any trans people? Have you had a conversation with trans people? Do you know illegal immigrants or immigrants in general? Have you talked to any of them? And that's one of the things she brings up. She says, number one, everything should be couched in relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have relationship. If it's not going to be this abstract political debate, but are we actually going to move to a new place together? And we have to have a relationship first.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these folks, argue from a place of no relationship.
No.
And when they
My way or the highway.
when they find out, like, I actually have real life experience with some of this in conversation or relationship, then it kind of turns it on its head. I mean, and the people though, so the yellow light people are the people that you have a relationship with already, that
Right.
are probably willing to at least dialogue with you because they know you, they're friends, they
Right.
founding. These are probably most of your family members, maybe probably not all, but like most of.
Not all. Right.
But those that are willing to listen. She does make clear that people in the yellow and green could immediately go to red, so you have to be aware.
Yeah.
When they're shifting, when a conversation goes to a place they're not ready to talk about, and you got to discern that and be willing to
Right.
adjust.
Right. How far is too far too
Yeah.
quickly? Because in my mind, I can make a distinction, or I can make a connection between points. And sometimes they really need to sit with one degree of change for a while,
Yeah.
and just acknowledge that that's real, and that God still loves them even if they change their opinion. And yeah, I mean, for me, I think it was a pretty rapid change when I left sort of the evangelical right and moved toward the center and now toward the left. It was, I would think, fairly rapid. But I remember challenging people when I first started to change my opinions, and they would say something that I thought was so radical. And I would say, well, I'm not sure about that.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, as I've marinated in that and sort of, steeped in it, all these different food languages, but then I started to say, okay, I can start to see that life is not as black and white as I used to think it was.
Yeah.
And we have to learn to listen to each other.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, everybody learns at a different pace. I would say too, a lot of these yellow people are lurkers.
Right.
They're watching you from afar, what you share, post on social media, what you say when you're with them about different topics. They may not engage you in conversation, but they're watching because actually recently I've had a few people, family members or close friends, childhood friends, reach out to me to say they've changed their view, and some of the things that I have said and posted or shared have been part of that process for them, and I didn't even realize they were engaging in my stuff.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's nice when people suddenly acknowledge they've been, like I said, lurking. They've
yeah,
been watching.
and they all have a different story of why, but part of the reason why is because I was there and I had a
Right.
relationship with them, and I think that's important to remember, that these yellow folks who are Christian nationalists in this world are listening, and maybe aren't bold enough to challenge you or ask questions or
Right.
afraid
But
to.
you had the courage to acknowledge that you have changed.
Yeah.
You've changed your opinion. You're seeing things differently. And in some ways, that gives them permission for some to start to rethink their position.
Mm,
And I think a lot of it is community. It comes down to people they trust and people they are in a relationship with, and they can start to say, all right, I might need to rethink or at least pull back my opinions. Um, Pastor Matt or, whoever is expressing something differently. And when we actually articulate it clearly, I'm guilty of putting up, you know, flash memes and stuff that are just like, going for the result, the reaction, but there are some that I put up that are really asking a hard question.
hmm
I just put one up today, and a young man said, why have I been treated so badly as a young person for being gay when racist young people are never challenged?
mm,
And, you know, I welcome that voice and that question because I think they're right.
yeah.
Saying people treat, sexual issues much more, importance than questions of how do you deal with the rest of the human race. And this is somebody who's not a invested Christian. This is somebody watching faith from the outside, saying, why is who I am so much more offensive to the church than a racist person? And I think that's a question
Yeah. I mean,
we could ask ourselves.
that's a good point too, is to pose questions like that, um, rather than making definitive statements. I've learned
Right.
that sometimes just making the statement triggers people into defensiveness, and you're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
Rather than asking a question is a little softer. Um, and then yeah, that's a great insight, and that's a direct topic on Christian nationalism, where their young people clearly struggle with um, being racist. And
Right.
no other way around it. But they don't address that, you know. But certainly, if a young person, has homosexuality as their sexuality, it's addressed very quickly, very
Right. Right. And harshly.
yeah, harshly, yeah. So yeah, um, and so she talks about the green light people, and these are the people that obviously will engage with you in good faith discussions. They'll ask you questions. Um, I have a few of these people that I follow, and sometimes I find with these folks, if they make a good point, like acknowledge it. I think in here too. I mean, she talks about finding good common ground. So
Right.
looking for ways in which you can say, yeah, I agree with that. That's a good sentiment. And there are ways. I mean, and so like just because you agree with one nuanced thing doesn't mean you agree with everything that their
Of
whole.
course. Right.
So
Right.
and that I actually had somebody who I dialogue with a lot online. Actually, we're actually purely friends online, but I enjoy him and I's back and forth. And he, he'll acknowledge points he agrees with me, and so I've learned I liked it, and actually he taught me that, and I was like, you know what, I need to do a better job of acknowledging ways in which I agree with him to keep the discussion going in a healthy way. So
Mhm.
I think that's important. Um, the kindness aspect, like I
Yep.
try hard never to make things personal or unkind. Um, and so as much as you can, even, people can get very offensive.
Oh, I was very reactive as a younger person.
Yeah.
When somebody would say something other than what I believed, I would lash out first. I don't know if I was trying to prove my loyalty to a certain side or what that was about. But yeah, I wouldn't listen to them. I would just attack them. And that, unfortunately, especially online, for some, that is the mode. If somebody disagrees with you, humiliate them, destroy them, make them look stupid.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, wait, because as we know, empathy is a sin, as we've been told by J.D. Vance and others.
Yeah.
To actually ask someone, tell me more about, your position. If you have a question, ask them, what do you do with this? Sorry.
Yeah.
Cat interference. But yeah, what do you do with this case? How do you understand somebody's position? And it takes a lot of time and patience to start to listen.
Yeah, listening. That's a good point. Yeah.
And to be in relationship with people from many different parts of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And, but I was raised in a very black and white, right and wrong view of both Christianity and the world. And you have to defend your belief. And I've definitely grown tired of that. But I've also just realized that is not, whenever I, think about Jesus talking to people, often what he would do is ask them questions.
Mm-hmm.
They would say something that is sort of like rote, canned, understanding of a topic or an issue. Jesus would not refute them. He would ask the question. I always think of the Good Samaritan. Who is my neighbor?
Yeah.
And Jesus told them a parable.
Yeah.
And said, a Samaritan or a Jewish person was going down and was mugged. The person who helped him was a Samaritan. Who was his neighbor? And it was a Samaritan. And that's a shock. We don't get the shock that would be for them.
Yeah.
But that's a shocking revelation.
Yeah. I mean, that's in our culture, the immigrant, the LGBTQ,
right?
Probably more the T,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so, yeah, Jesus, I mean, telling a story like that, a parable, if online, it probably wouldn't work as well, but in person, it
well,
could.
People are a little more cynical, a lot more cynical, I think. But yeah, they're not going to listen to that.
But in person, talking about that would be good.
Right.
I like how you said, and I have a hard time with this, even though when I try to be kind, is to watch your defensiveness, like where you're quick to come back.
Yep.
Because in you're clearly not listening. At least me. I mean, I'll speak for myself. When I'm getting defensive, I'm not even reading everything they say. I'm just responding.
Once upon a time, I was about scoring points. You got to make them look bad.
Yeah.
But now, I guess I'm woke. Oh dear. But I'm willing to say to someone, tell me your position. Talk to me about your position. And I may not respond in any strong way right now.
Yeah.
Especially if it's in more of a public setting. One-on-one, I might challenge them more. So it's not about a public venue. It's more about, let's talk one-on-one. Let's talk personally.
Yeah.
And that goes against sort of the social media construct and everything else, where people want to score points and they want to look like a winner.
Yeah.
I have no interest in that.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to. I get it. I know what that means. But I don't, I don't have interest in, they hate so-and-so, like some politician or a, celebrity, whatever. Okay. I hear what you're saying. I might ask them to tell me more. I might not. But to say, so how does that hatred or that rejection of someone else, how does that affect your life going forward? It's like, how are you going to navigate the future based on this rejection of that person? If you're always, basically, your life is about rejecting them, you're stuck there. You're stuck with them.
Yeah.
How can you move forward? And what have you learned from this experience with them? I guess I'm also getting old and crotchety, but it's like, but I'm thinking, if you're always stuck in this place of debates are never won. I don't care what people tell you. There will always be debates.
Yeah.
And, whether it's Charlie Kirk or whoever,
Yeah.
love to just humiliate people. It doesn't mean necessarily he won the debate, but he humiliated the people he was debating with.
Yeah. I think that's the important distinction. Debate without trying to humiliate or even win. Like, I think
Right.
it's important to like get the view across that you want to get across. But like, she talks about it, like, don't try to win the argument. I mean, like it's not going to have the effect that you think it's going to have.
Right. Right.
And typically if you're getting in a back and forth, like what she says, that person's probably moving red. So it's best just to kind of back off.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
like,
People's defenses go up. Yep.
yeah,
But I'm willing to say to an individual I disagree with, do you want to go have coffee one-on-one, not with no audience? Let's try to
yeah,
forge a bit of a relationship here. Let's talk about, how do I see the world? How do you see the world? And can we come to a place of saying, I respect your humanity? For some, that is the beginning of the
yeah,
conversation. Can they respect a human being who disagrees with them?
yeah,
Because I was raised basically to not believe that.
yeah,
If somebody disagrees with me, they're going to hell. They
yeah,
don't believe in God. They don't love Jesus. And can I actually respect a person if we don't see eye to eye? That for some is a big jump. That's a big leap.
yeah. Um, yeah, I think you nailed it. Like for college students, that might be listening, we're almost at 30 minutes. I looked at the clock and I'm like, wow, I didn't
Yeah.
realize we've been talking this,
Yeah.
but clearly we're
She
passionate.
recommends breathing. Breathe.
Yeah,
That's important.
clearly we're passionate about this topic. But
Yeah.
the point you made about getting someone one-on-one in connection, I think is very important. And then even if you can't, but and this is hard for some because MAGA and Christian nationalists attacks some of those that are probably watching this identity in very real personal ways.
Right.
To have compassion and see their humanity even as they do that, I think it actually will free you. To live in hate and anger, you're giving them more power over you than they
You're
deserve.
stuck. You're
Yeah.
stuck there. You're
So
always reacting to them.
yeah, I think
Can
that
you move past that?
yeah. I think that if you can move past that, you will have a beautiful countenance, a beautiful life, a beautiful way of projecting what you believe when you get the opportunity, that the other side won't have
Right.
or
Well,
has.
just, yeah, I think we acknowledge that I'm living my life, they're living their life. How do we bring our minds together? How do we, basically reason together, as scripture says? How do we come together? Jesus and Nicodemus, I think about, at night. Nicodemus didn't want to be seen with Jesus. At night they met. And Jesus even said, how do you not know this? I mean, he was
Well,
frustrated
he
with
even
Nicodemus.
told them you can't be born again unless you're woke, right? Like,
Right, exactly.
you got to
That's
wake
the
up.
new translation. We're going to work on that. But yeah, I mean, but Jesus was willing to talk to people who were but I'm guessing Nicodemus was more of a yellow light than he was a red light.
Yeah.
Because things were moving for him. He was willing to say, I need to rethink this, or I need to at least push pause and think again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jesus, when he addressed the red lights, like you said, he just dropped the parable bombs and moved on. You know?
Right. He's not going to explain it to
Yeah.
them. He's like, here you go.
I mean, he said it all the time. He who has ears to hear, let him hear what the Spirit says. So he dropped his truth bomb, and if they weren't willing to listen, he didn't engage them further.
Didn't keep him up at night. It was like, yeah.
Good book. Yeah, I'll pick it up if you haven't read it. It's a good reference book to have there.
Good to have.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thanks for the recommendation, Scott. Well,
and there's some questions and stuff in the back, so it's good. Yeah.
And maybe we'll pick another book soon. Maybe an Advent type book.
Yeah, sounds good.
Good way to keep us focused. But next week is our Friendsgiving, November 19th, Wednesday at 5.
Yep. 5:30.
5:30.
Come whenever. Yeah. We'll be here.
And
we'll begin stuff
together. Scott and I will be together hanging out and to eat with you. All right. Thanks for joining us.